So good morning or good afternoon, everybody. My name is James Krolder. I'm the Director of International Autosource. And as Andy has mentioned, I have been with the company now for 24 years, working in the global mobility industry for that long. And I can say that the entire industry is extremely fascinating. It is it's a very different business, very different industry, and it's been very, very fun. It's great in the sense that it's a new challenge every single day. I've seen everything. I've seen everything that you can possibly imagine, and then when I thought I saw everything I could possibly imagine, a pandemic came along and taught us a lot about the world and taught us a lot about the car industry and taught us a lot about leasing and financing and taught us a lot about working from home. But now I am back to the office, so that's a little bit different anyway. But just to tell you a little bit about the company and International Autosource and what we do. So our company is focused on helping expats and foreign executives and healthcare workers and just about anybody that would be relocating to the United States or any foreign country from their home country in a new relocation or new land and working for a company looking to either finance, lease, or rent a vehicle without any type of a credit history in that local country. And at some point, a lot of people would never really think that this was an issue until it actually became an issue, because a lot of people feel that when they are relocating to a country, they're established in their home country and they feel that, I'm just going to be able to go either use public transportation or I'm going to be able to just go and buy a car like I do back home. And what they find is that when they get to that new country, for example, if they're moving to the US, they move to a state like Texas, or they move to a place like California, or they move somewhere where the public transportation is non-existent. It's not the same as what it was back home. So now they have to go and they have to purchase a vehicle. And they run into the challenge of trying to obtain credit. And they learn that their credit did not transfer from their home country. So now they're being treated as if they're a financial orphan, and they're just trying to establish a US or their local credit history. And they're paying a lot more than what they would have been paying in their home country, sometimes making either that vehicle unaffordable or not being approved for that vehicle at all, or they're asking for a substantial down payment on that vehicle. And that makes that somewhat of a challenge. In addition to that, they may not be able to obtain any type of auto insurance. So that auto insurance ties back to credit history here now in the US, or driving history, something also that doesn't transfer from a home country. So these are challenges that really International Autosource has been solving for the last 24 years and helping that expatriate community all throughout the world, helping them drive, helping them obtain auto insurance, helping them obtain credit, and helping them learn the rules of the road, registering vehicles, obtaining their licenses, and just really understanding what it's like to purchase, lease, finance, or rent a vehicle when they're moving to a new country. That's really been the basis of our program and the substance of our program, and really just kind of helping relocation companies, healthcare companies, global companies, HR representatives, individuals navigate through those challenges when they're moving to a new country. And you can see here, as Andy mentioned, Andy is showing this slide here, and you're just kind of talking about it here. And this is going to be available to you at the end, and we're going to kind of share this with you. So, and we'll update this with some more information, as we go through the questions, so you can always refer back to this and understanding what our program is and how our program can help. Everybody's going to have individual needs. Some things you won't even realize that you have those needs. Really comes down to the fact that when it happens, that's when you realize you need it. It's really the person, everybody believes that they don't have an issue until that issue actually arises. We can go to the next one, Andy. If you want, we can go into the questions, actually. Do you want me to go into the questions now, Andy? Okay. Yeah, so we have 35 questions here. I'm going to go through, each individual question, and obviously we have the chat there. Please feel free to put the questions into the chat. I'll go through at the end of the session, I'll go through each individual question and make sure that I cover everything. We have 35 questions. It's great. All of these questions are amazing. They're excellent questions. Some of the questions I had to do some research on this way, and that's what's great about about this industry. It's an opportunity to learn things and teach me some things about the business, and to see that, some of them, as our program is evolving and the business is evolving, like one of the questions goes back to kind of remote working, and what that's like for this industry. And it gave me an opportunity to kind of learn something that's happening in our industry today as well. So I'm going to go one by one. This really worked well for our last session. So starting with the first question, this came from Tabitha, and it's from Kat, and it was really just a pretty generic question, just saying basic requirement for car renting, and what is a good website that we can follow to know the road rules. So the basic requirement for renting a vehicle, we have a program through our service. It's called Ready Drive, and Ready Drive is a car rental program that is available to any individual that's coming into the United States or any of the 150 countries in the world that wants to rent a vehicle, either on a daily basis, weekly basis, or monthly basis. These rates are all inclusive, which means that they include all the insurances in the rate. They're about 30% less than the average corporate rate. And I can assure you that these rates are lower than anybody's rates at this time, because our contract was locked in before all of the current shortage supply that we were seeing, and the rate increases that most of these rental car companies have been passing along. We locked our contract in much earlier, and we have a 3-year lock-in. So we don't see any kind of an increase in our rates until 2026. So we're very confident that our rates are going to be much better than what anybody is receiving today. So as far as what are kind of the requirements, it's just really having an international driver's license or a home country driver's license. So if you can imagine, if you're traveling on vacation or traveling on business, if you're going to go rent a vehicle, you just have to show that you are a legal driver in your home country, and that's going to allow you to rent a car. And that's, again, whether you want to do it for a daily rate, or you want to do it for a weekly rate, or you want to do it for a monthly rate. You just have to prove that you're legally allowed to drive a vehicle and show that identification. And for the road rules, whether you want to learn that for driving in the US or a local country, there are motor vehicle departments. And specifically when you're coming to the United States, I would always suggest going to the motor vehicle department for that particular state. So I would suggest just typing in Department of Motor Vehicles, Texas, Department of Motor Vehicles, New York, Department of Motor Vehicles, Florida. And if you really know where your individual might be relocating to as far as city or county, you could type it into that location for the county, and that will give you any kind of individual rules of the road. This is going to tie into one of the questions that comes down a little bit later, but on the International Autosource blog, as well as any kind of materials that we communicate out to our individuals that work with our service, we do also send out communication that teaches them about the rules of the road and teaches them about, kind of like what it's like to drive in the United States, or what it's like to drive, like what the road signs, or kind of any kind of laws that are here in the States. This way we can kind of educate our clients and have them prepared for what it's like to drive here in the US. So that's some of the advice that I would give as far as the road rules and learning about driving here in the States. Is insurance an option through IAS? Yes. That was question number 2. Yes, absolutely. Many benefits of IAS, obtaining a car through our program, obtaining credit history through our service. We won't, or we shouldn't, and we wouldn't leave you behind on auto insurance. We work with all of the major insurance companies, and in some situations, we work with local insurance companies individually in certain counties and cities where some of the larger insurance companies do not assist. We ensure that we can provide insurance references and insurance benefits to our individual expats and healthcare workers, because now insurance in the US takes into account credit history. And it's very important that you have a partner that is offering an insurance benefit that will not penalize an individual based on not having a credit history. And that is our program. That's how our program works. And in addition to that, we also ensure that they do not penalize our individuals based on not having a driving history. Anything that can kind of help that individual expat, I would suggest if they can get a no claims bonus or any kind of driving history that they can bring from their home country is always helpful. But it's already set up with our partners to ensure that they're not penalizing any one of the individuals that we refer through our service, that they're not penalizing them for no credit history or no driving history. Because again, this would almost be treating them like all of us, that first time that we were trying to obtain our auto insurance, be treating us like we're 17 years old again. The first time we're driving a car, it's almost, we'd be paying more for our insurance than we'd be paying for a car. So we are very, very keen to ensure that we offer auto insurance to our clients. So yes, that is a major benefit of our service. And yes, we do offer that. The third question, interested to explore what this type of program entails as opposed to how I currently manage our regional lease vehicle program. I'm going to, just kind of guessing what that means is that most likely that's a fleet program, managing a fleet program where it's a full comprehensive program, where you're kind of offering a service that offers, they pick up a fleet car and it includes maintenance and it includes gas cards potentially, and the individual can drive the car for a certain amount of time. This service, we can do that. So you can offer this kind of service to the individual, and we can offer that type of program. That service is typically through the company. It's offered under a company insurance plan, and the company is completely available and, is completely at risk. That is a company plan. How it differs through a service like ours is that we can offer it we can also offer it individually through the individual, where the company loses the liability. So there would be no liability to the company that, God forbid, or there was any situation where there was an accident or there was any kind of issues with the individual employee, it wouldn't tie back to the company. So every lease can individually be put through the employee. That means that it's personal lease, personal credit, personal insurance. So that would be one major difference. And we do handle a lot of those for companies or corporations where they switch out of these large fleet programs and they switch to individual employee lease programs. They offer them on a different, kind of like a management different level, where they'll say supervisor level, manager level, executive level. They have 3 different kind of payment approval or payment methods, and we'll provide them 3 or 4 different cars in each level. And then we'll speak to the individual employees, say you're approved for level A or level B or level C, pick your car, they pick their car, and that vehicle is available to them in 30 or 40 days. Yep. Okay, so to the employee, yep, absolutely. So just kind of what I was mentioning there was talking about the difference between a fleet program and a company kind of offered leasing program. So really just kind of explaining the difference, where a fleet program is completely on the company insurance plan, company liability, company is completely responsible. That's a situation where the employee just picks a car, red, blue, whatever they want, and they drive the car. They're contacted to provide maintenance on the vehicle. They have a gas card. They fill out, they simply fill up their car with gas. They bring their car in every 6 months or every year for maintenance. Very simple process for them. It works out well, but the company holds all the liability. The alternative to that is the company has no liability and it falls under the individual. And there's 3 different levels typically where the employee can choose from, and we can offer that to them in a sense that customer comes in, you're approved for level A, you can choose from these 3-4 cars. You're approved for level B, you can choose from these 3-4 cars. You're approved for level C, you can choose from these 3 or 4 cars. And you simply lease the car for 2 or 3 years. And at the end, you turn the car in. And if you're going back home, you go back home. If you're not, you can choose another car, level A, however it goes. And the difference there is personal liability. The liability either falls with the person or falls with the company when you're doing a fleet program. So if that's somewhat of a difference, and that's the difference that we're talking about, I would be happy to speak with that more on an individual level and how we can compare costs versus the company. Under the fleet program, there usually is a pretty substantial difference in pricing because the personal leasing has subvented programs and has different interest rates versus the fleet program. And there usually is a pretty substantial savings versus the company. So if there was an individual conversation, I'd be happy to have that. And I'd be happy to give you a comparison of comparative costs so you can see the differences. Number 4, please provide an overview of how the program works and what the employee experience is like. So to give an idea of how the program works, right now, basically, What would happen is we know that the employee or the individual employee goes through a process where they're notified they're going to relocate to the US. That's great. All very exciting. A lot of things are happening. They have to, go through the immigration process. They have to go through a process of what it's going to be like to pack up their home and get their goods together and think about everything moving their entire life from one country to another country. And then somewhere in that process, they have to think about buying a car. And a few years back, we did a research study where we said, we want to know when people are thinking about buying a car and when should we try to talk to them about buying a car. And what we found out is that out of the top 50 things that somebody is thinking about before they move to the United States, buying a car wasn't even on the list. So it was really exciting for our business to learn that. So we said, okay, that's great news. When they're moving to the US or they're in that moving process, they're not even thinking about buying a car. But once they arrive in their home country or their new country, it becomes the number 2 item for them, because now they realize they have to get around and they have to find out, they have to get to school, they have to get to the local store. Their spouse is now left at home, and now it becomes the single most important thing for them to do. So kind of going through that process, what we've identified is that what we would like, or how the process should work, is that while the individual is overseas, we would want them to be educated about our service, know that we exist, have the opportunity for us to speak with them, educate them about the program, and educate them of the challenges that they may face before they arrive here in the US. So we know they have a lot of things happening. We just want to let them know, hey, we're here. International Autosource exists. And these are some of the issues that you may face when you move to the United States. We know you're going to be driving a vehicle. We know that you're going to need to buy a car or lease a car or potentially rent a car. These are some of the challenges you go through. Credit, buying a vehicle is challenged. Prices are higher now in the US. Obtaining credit is higher. Interest rates are higher. Obtaining credit could be impossible. Obtaining insurance is a challenge. This is how we can help. We can help now. We can help when you arrive. This is how it all works. These are the products we offer. These are the manufacturers we offer. Now, as we go through that process, we provide upfront pricing. We provide the payments. We provide what the interest rates look like. We provide everything upfront. They're completely educated. The quotes are detailed. They're provided. The payments are broken down for them. Everything is provided upfront, fully detailed, in a sense that they see everything completely laid out for them. It's not the same type of dealership experience where, if any of us have gone, or any of you have gone to a dealership where you get it written on the back of a business card. This is all fully detailed with a picture of the vehicle and written out what's included in the car and what the payments are going to look like, broken down by the monthly payment, including with the taxes, everything all inclusive. We understand that, we're asking them to kind of do this over the telephone, and we're asking them to kind of go through a process where it's a little different than what they're used to. So we want to make sure that we're giving them as much information as possible so they can make the best educated decision that's for them as well as their family. Now, once they arrive here in the United States, they obviously have the opportunity to go visit as many local dealerships as they'd like, and they can see the vehicle that they either may have chosen or that they want to choose, that they can have the opportunity to then test drive that vehicle. Now, once they choose the vehicle, they have time. They usually arrive here. They have a rental car from their company. This is giving them the opportunity to obtain some documents that the leasing company is asking for. The leasing company will ask them to have their social security number before they pick up the vehicle. The vehicle is now in transition to their location where they're moving to. By the time the vehicle arrives, most of their documents that the leasing company is asking for has arrived. Once the vehicle arrives, their documents arrive. We just ask them to sign a lease contract, and then we set them up for delivery or pickup. So it's a very simple process. The idea is to make it as seamless as possible. We now understand that everything that they needed to do while they were overseas is now being unwound here in the US. So the last thing we want to do is make it difficult for them while they're here in the United States. We don't want them to worry, or in their new country, we don't want them to worry about buying a car or what it was like to buy a car, or we just want them to just worry about starting their new job, worry about getting their children to school, and worry about, what it's like to live in their new country. Not worry about, where is my car? What is this paperwork like? We're going to help them with all of that process to make this as smooth as possible. We know they have enough to worry about. We don't want to make car being a challenge. I hope that answered the question, because I know that was a little longer winded, because there's a little bit more of an open ended. How can it be decided to the leasing cost cap? So I think this might be more about like, how does the leasing, like the pricing and the costs. So how this kind of comes down, we'll go through the price costs with each individual customer. And really what we decide, or how we ask the questions to each individual, is we talk to them more about, where are you moving in the US, or where are you moving, and what country are you moving to? How many people are you relocating with? What is the single most important thing that you need this vehicle to do for you? And, what type of vehicle do you drive now? And, really, what are you looking for this vehicle? What is it going to do for you while you're here? We're not trying to really kind of upsell a customer. We're not really trying to put them in the most expensive vehicle. We're trying to make sure that they're watching their budget and managing the expectations of what they're going to spend here. There's a lot of new expenses when somebody's relocating to a new country. There's a lot of new taxes. There's a lot of new surprises. So we don't want them to be overspending on a car. One of the things that we try to explain to a lot of our new partners and people that work with us is that this isn't a situation with a dealership where we're trying to sell a car one time and make the most money one time. We have been in business, as many of you know, and even heard earlier, for over 30 years, and I've been here for 24 years. The idea is to work with all of our partners for a very, very long time. And if we take advantage of that one individual customer and try to make the most money one time, that's going to shut off the pipeline from all of our partners. We've worked with all of the largest relocation companies since the inception of our business. Largest relocation companies like Cardis and Serva and Weicker. We've been with them since the inception of Global Mobility and relocation. And we've done that because the idea is to do the right thing and to offer the best program and the best services to that individual expat when they're moving to the US, not to take advantage of them or to try to take advantage of them on the pricing. So the idea is, when we're quoting that customer and working with that customer, is to really focus on the big picture of, where are you moving? What do you actually need? And let's not look at this as an opportunity that, yes, I know you're moving to the US and everybody drives the big, large SUVs. You don't need the big Lincoln Navigator. The Ford Explorer does just as well. So we can save you $200 or $300 a month. We're not going to try to upsell them. We're going to try to manage the expectations and ensure they're maximizing their budget. And, if you're moving here for a long time, go practical the first time. Learn what it's like to pay the taxes in the US. Learn what it's like to pay for a mortgage or an apartment in the US. And then that second car, that could be the dream car, or the third car could be the dream car. We'd be happy to help if we did a good job the first time. But if not, wherever you get that second car the next time, but that first car be practical. So we help them manage that cost, and we make sure that it stays within that budget to help them manage that lease cost cap. Next question, number 6, was Ashley Harrison. So from Connexus. Connexus, I think, Ashley, I'm not sure if I worked with you directly, but I know we've worked with Connexus for a very long time. And can you please provide information on car leases specific to H-1B holders and the requirements? So we can help all H-1B holders. Doesn't matter what type of job they hold or what type of position that they hold. Any H-1B holder that's relocating to the United States, as long as they do have a job. Okay, so I shouldn't say any job, but as long as they have a job. We can help them with any type of lease on a vehicle. The lease is typically either for 2 or 3 years. And the requirements are kind of the same as what I was mentioning previously. It's going to be the requirements of the leasing company. They're going to ask you for your social security number before you pick up, not before you order. They just need it before you pick up the car. They need a copy of your employment letter showing that you're relocating with a job and your salary. The income for that position has to be over $35,000 per year, which we've never had an issue with that. In addition to that, they want a U.S. phone number, a copy of a lease agreement or apartment agreement or mortgage agreement to show where you're living in the U.S. and a copy of your driver's license. In some states, they ask for a copy of the actual state driver's license, which we help you obtain, which we help you kind of manage and navigate through the local DMV. In some states, they'll just ask you for your overseas driver's license. The bank will take your overseas driver's license, but as we get down to the actual delivery of the car, that some states will require your local driver's license. But again, we will help the individual with that. As it goes down to the car leasing, we will help those nurses obtain that lease with that with the H-1B, or we will help them with the financing as well. We've helped many customers from Connexus in the past, and we'd be happy to help them again. Do you need question number 7? Do you need a contract with a vendor to use the services? If that's a contract with us, you do not. So you do not need a contract with us. You can send us referrals. We're happy. I promise we're happy to accept referrals. We're happy to work with anybody that you send over to us. You do not have to have a signed contract with us. That's completely up to you. We will send you a referral agreement. You are welcome to sign it, but that referral agreement that we send to you is mostly our promise and commitment to you. It's basically telling you that we're going to, how we're going to manage the business and our commitment to you and to your clients. It's the address of where to send the referrals and things like that. But it's not really a requirement. We have had partners that, just send us names and ask us to just help their individual employees or help their individual clients before they're relocating here. So it's not a requirement for you to have that signed agreement. You can just send them over to us as needed. So this was the one question number 8. How are mobility professionals handling remote working and allowances? This one kind of threw me for a curveball because this was the one that was a little bit new to us. This is something that was only started after pandemic. This one's been a little different because I haven't really seen many companies, and I reached out to some of the HR reps that I do know, and I haven't really seen. Most of them said if the individual's employees are working from home, they're not receiving a car allowance. Only time that they're receiving a car allowance is if they're a high level and they're being relocated and they're at the level where they would get some type of an employee allowance. But anybody who's been working from home is not receiving a car allowance any longer. So I don't know if that's the answer that you were really looking for. I apologize if it's not. But as I was kind of taking it a little bit further, they really just kind of just said they haven't really found a way to kind of offer, and people haven't really asked. But as far as people getting the car allowances, that was kind of going back to my earlier responses. That was more under the people that were traveling and coming on short-term assignments and actually being relocated that were getting the car allowances or getting car rental programs for them. But so far, anybody who is doing the remote working and working from home really hasn't been getting those services. Sorry that I couldn't give you more information on that, but if you want to reach out to me privately, if there was a little bit more to that question, I'll definitely do the research and I'd be happy to work on that because, I want to find out more on that answer too, because I want to make sure that, if more people are starting to work from home, that could be an effect on my business. But I'm starting to see more people in the U.S. come back to the office and actually come back to work. So I don't know if that's going up or going down. So I'd be happy to talk about that further if you wanted to reach out. Car leasing procedure. So that kind of goes back to this question number 9, car leasing procedure. Eligibility and conditions. Eligibility, the eligibility just really has to be a foreign national or an expat or somebody relocating to the United States with a job and some type of visa that's moving here, whether they're moving here to the US or moving to Canada, or as I mentioned earlier, there's over 150 countries that we work with. So it's just someone moving to a new country with a job assignment is the best way to explain it. The most open-ended, I guess you could say, to explain it. That's how we can help. And conditions, it really comes down to when it comes down to income, the income would be over 35,000, which again has not really been a challenge. We haven't really run into any issues with that. What help is there for those without credit? Tons. There's tons of help with our program. That is the premise of our service, and the premise of our program is to help people without credit. One of the things I was mentioning to Andy earlier in our conversation, and even with marketing before, as we put together all of our marketing materials, all of our materials are centered around credit. That is the most important benefit of our program, credit. And this is something that fluctuates as far as how well this benefit works for us. There are times when I first started this program, it worked so well. It was a very long time ago. I had hair then, but not much, but I had some. But credit was, tight. It wasn't as easy to get. But over time, credit loosened. Interest rates were low, credit loosened, and credit was available to people. But now we're in a time, inflation is up, interest rates are high, and credit is tightening. So they're making it more difficult for individuals without credit to actually obtain credit. So now is probably a time versus 5 or 6 years ago, maybe even a little bit longer, that HR representatives or global mobility managers are hearing more from their employees where it's more difficult for them to get a credit card, or more difficult for them to get a car lease or car financing or a mortgage, or things are probably a little bit more challenging. They're probably asking for more documentation, or down payments are higher, or, because individually on a basis of, or on a location of a dealership, those credit favors that the dealers are asking for are being saved for customers that they know can buy cars more than once, where an expat might only be able to buy a car once because they're only staying here for 3 years or 2 years. Or when you don't have a credit history and your score is so low, you're not close enough where a dealership can ask for that favor, where, listen, this guy's score is only like, he's like 650. Can you push him? So this is a situation where credit is a lot harder to actually receive. So now credit is a challenge, and now credit is probably the single most important benefit that our program can help with. So there is a ton of help that we can provide, because that is the number one benefit that our program assists with. It helps with the financing and leasing, and it helps with the insurance. So I go back to the word tons. That there's tons of help that we can provide with that. What is the car renewal rate, and how often can our employees get a new car? The car renewal rate is pretty high. It's probably about 50%, which is higher than most organizations and dealerships. And as many times as they like, they can come back to us as many times as they want. And we'll refer them out to our partners, and we'll refer them out to our other services, and we'll refer them out to organizations that we know that can provide them the best service possible, so they can continue coming back to us. And on our rental program, they can continue using our rental service and taking advantage of our rental program and those rental rates. What car models are the most popular with expats? Question number 12. Right now, the most popular car models, and this changes too. So, and reason why this changes is because who's offering the best program sometimes. So right now, for example, Volkswagen is offering financing rates of 0.9%. And guess whose car is the best car? The program is offering 0.9%. So Volkswagen is one of the most popular models. Audi is pretty popular. And then I would say out of all of them, the most popular product that everybody wants is Toyota. So Toyota is very, very popular, that everybody chooses through our service. So Volkswagen, Audi, and Toyota, what I would say would be our top three. Sweet stuff. Sana from Pepsi. I want to understand, how does the expat car program work globally? So we thought, same way that I'm explaining everything, it all works the same. So the only difference how it works differently is that programs are called something different in other countries. So car leasing might be called renting in another country. Renting might be called leasing in another country. Every country calls something just a little bit different. But when I say that we offer everything in 150 different countries, however you need us to provide it, we're going to provide it to you as you need it. So I might just call it something a little bit different. So if you say to me, what kind of a service can you offer me in Germany? It would be leasing. But if you say to me, what can you offer me in Finland? It might be called renting. So, but it's still the same premise. It's still a leasing program. It's just called renting because that's the way the laws are written in that particular country. But as we talk about your individual program, we would write your program specific to your company and how you need us to write it up for your employees. But the idea of the program is specific to provide you with a program that approves customers for credit without a credit in their local country or their new country, excuse me, and also providing them with insurance, so that they can have insurance on their cars and make sure that they're covered when they're driving in that new country, and making sure that, they have a vehicle and they have insurance and they could just focus on working in a new country, and their spouse, if they have a spouse, can focus on just driving and getting the family around and not worry about car when they're, in their new country. That's the most important thing. I hope that answered that question. I know we have a call, so we can talk further about that in our call. What is the typical lease time? So for leasing a car, the typical lease time is either 36 or 24 months. That really depends on the visa time or the employee approval time. So if a customer's visa is only approved for 2 years, we would obviously only suggest leasing a car for 2 years, no longer. If customer's visa time is 3 years, obviously don't take that lease for any longer. If needed, they will allow you to extend the lease for a couple of months, should the project take a little bit longer. If they're going to be extended for a longer period of time, obviously we can assign them into a new lease. No problem. Question 15, do you help those in Canada as well as the US? Yes, we do. Whether we help them with a car leasing program, and we help them with a rental program as well. Rahul Bose from Signita, excuse me. Is car leasing suggested over renting for short-term assignments? Top service providers in this space factors to be considered before offering lease programs on assignments. Great question. I would tell you that the cutoff, leasing versus renting, is on the assignment period would be 16 months. So if a customer is relocating for more than 16 months, I would do a comparison versus a lease versus a rent. But if they're moving for 15 months or less, rent the vehicle. If they're moving for 16 months or more, compare a lease versus a rent. It's going to be very, very close, because now you're looking at a lease payment with the insurance versus a rental car payment with insurance all included. And really what that would come down to is just the fact that on a lease payment with the insurance, I can kind of choose my car and choose the color of what I want, versus a rental car where you don't really get much choice. You kind of get what the rental car has, and that's what it comes down to. But it's at that 16-month period where the payment really kind of starts to make a difference, and you've got to start to see a payment difference. That's about the breaking point. 16 months. Megan Delacruz from Air Products. She was asking how expats can find affordable car leases when they don't have credit established in the U.S. I don't know if I'm allowed to do a self-plug, but contact International Autosource. That's what I would say. That's the best way to do it. Obviously I'm gonna plug International Autosource, but that's probably the best way, Megan. You have to find a program like ours where they're not going to take advantage of someone who doesn't have credit history, because in a situation when someone doesn't have credit, it doesn't make any sense what I'm going to say. But when somebody doesn't have credit, they consider them a risk. So they make their interest rates higher, and they make it harder for them to pay. I was just having this conversation with Andy too before we started this session. I don't know why the banks make it more difficult, but they make it more difficult. I guess they're taking the risk, so they're going to make it more challenging. But yes, so they go two ways. They either don't approve the lease, or they turn around and they raise the interest rates and they make the payments much higher than what the average American is paying. So our program specializes in approving individuals that are moving to the United States without credit. That's what we've been doing for the last 30 years. That's what's been our focus. That's what we are the specialists in. So that's, without trying to sound like that self-plug that I made the joke about before, that's what I would suggest. And I would ask for that opportunity to work with your individual employees, to try to show them how they can get those affordable car leases without that credit history. Number 18, for international transferees purchasing vehicles instead of leasing, are there any car insurance companies you would have worked with to recommend for individuals with no credit history who may be subject to very high insurance quotes? Or is it pretty much just a general issue of no credit available? Yes. So kind of yes to both. So the insurance companies that we work with will help whether you're leasing or whether you're financing a vehicle. They will help with both. So it's kind of the same thing. So on leasing, you're leasing a car, it could be the insurance sometimes can be a little bit less than what you're paying on financing. And that's really comes down to personal, because sometimes it could be a little bit higher on financing because it comes down to your personal requirements. Leasing, when you're getting insurance on a leased car, there are certain requirements that the leasing company requires that you have. For example, 100,000 in bodily injury insurance, that God forbid, if anybody was into an accident, you have to have this type of coverage to protect the other people that you're in an accident. $50,000 vehicle coverage. There's certain one, it's called 100, 350. You may not have that if you're financing the car and you own the car because you're the owner. So you can't be set at and required to what you have to put as your insurance coverages. Most importantly, we have insurance for both. The actual costs are set at what you have to have when you're leasing a car. On the financing side, you can kind of mix that up a little bit. So you could be a little bit less or you could be a little bit more. But to answer your question directly, yes, we have it for both. Costs, that could be really kind of comes down to personal decision. Have you ever seen a company, question 19, sorry. Have you ever seen a company teaming with a local car dealership to assist in this? Not to sound immature, but car dealerships are bad. No, I'm just kidding. Sometimes we do assist with local car dealerships to assist them with inventory and vice versa. And sometimes companies, large organizations have a relationship with a local car dealership. So yes, I have seen that happen. They do work with them directly. If you're a large company in a small town, and the local car dealership is kind of right down the block, you might work together. There's definitely sometimes that happens. But I've also seen large car manufacturers come to us because they can't lease or finance their own employees. And it's the companies like Hyundai, Chevrolet, Ford, large organizations that literally are not able to finance or lease their own employees that we help sell them cars because they don't finance or lease their own employees. So it kind of all works in circle. But yes, to answer your direct question, it does happen where, you take a small city or even sometimes a big city and a large Fortune 100 company is directly right in that town. And there's a local car dealership right in that town and they have an agreement and they work together. So yes, that does happen. Question number 20. Do you have road safety guides or help for transferees? Yes, 100%. One of the things that, in a 30-year company, and again, me working here for 24 years, this isn't just about selling a car. Global mobility always isn't just about relocating one individual. I know that's the idea. The idea is to move somebody, but it's also about helping each other. Something I've also noticed about this industry and working in this industry is going to all of these conferences. Everybody helps everybody. All of our competition, we all helped each other. Everybody was always working together and trying to find solutions for each other. So yes, we always wanted to sell a car. That was absolutely the idea. But the other thing too was helping people and educating people along the way. So the International Autosource blog has safety guides and availability to assist people in obtaining a driver's license, what it's like paying taxes, what it's like to, the rules of the road, just anything at all related to a car or anything assistance relocating to the U.S. is available in the International Autosource blog, is shared by our consultants to the individual clients, is communicated through email campaigns, and something that we call, which might be called by other people as well, is something that we call a nurture track, and communicated to our individuals that are in our email database that opt in. They receive this information. We send this information to them just to kind of educate them and warm them, and nothing to do with buying a car, just to communicate them, this is what life's going to be like in the US. This is what it's like. This is what a road sign looks like. This is what a stop sign looks like. This is what it's like to get a driver's license. Just really kind of preparing them for the United States. And in addition to this, we also offer clients that buy cars from us, we also offer them driving lessons. So, again, this is helping them with, driving a car in the United States. So it's about helping people too. So yes, we do help them with that. And it's whether you buy a car or not, we're helping them and providing them these guides. And it's always available to them on our blog, on our website, and sent to them in email campaigns as well. So yes, to answer that question, yes, that is available to them. Question number 21. How do you help short-term assignments under 2 years? Our Ready Drive program, which is the rental car program, as I mentioned earlier on one of the other questions, that 16-month turn is where we kind of can help leases, or we can help customers with a rental car. I don't want to kind of close off that we have helped clients with 12-month leases just because they want to choose their own car and it's more expensive than a rental car. But 12-month leases are available. So that is an option. But we have a rental car program that goes from, daily and weekly and monthly. And we have clients that are renting cars for almost 2 or 3 years. So whether it's a day or whether it's 6 months or 2 months or 1 month, we have a Ready Drive car rental program that's available to help those individuals that are moving less than 2 years. Can an expat get a car on arrival? Most companies, I would say almost 95% of companies, are offering an individual expat a rental car when they first arrive, because they know that the expat has to have a social security number in order to actually obtain a vehicle or potentially obtain a driver's license when they first arrive. The expat can drive a rental vehicle when they first arrive because they only need their foreign driver's license to drive a rental car. But to actually pick up and take ownership or register a new vehicle on their own, they do have to have a social security number. So that usually takes, you have to wait 10 days, you have to apply for your social. That usually can take, if you know the people, maybe 30 days. So within 30 days, they can have a new car, yes, but not immediate, not on arrival at the airport can they have their own new car. They can have a rental car, but not their own new car. Question number 23. What does an assignee need in the States to lease a car? Again, kind of going back to those documents, they're going to need that copy of their home lease agreement or apartment agreement, their social security number, driver's license, employment letter, and a copy of their visa. Do you work directly with the manufacturers? Question number 24. Question number 24. How often can an expat get a new car? As often as they like. 25, do you work directly with the manufacturers? Yes, we work directly with the car manufacturers. In some areas, we have a program like with Toyotas, we work directly with dealerships. But in some areas like the Ford, Chrysler, Audi, Volkswagen, Nissan's products, we work directly with the manufacturers. And every day we're working to change, to get new agreements with manufacturers. We're adding new manufacturers. We're working with some right now to work directly with them. And then in some manufacturers like Toyota, Hyundai, Kia, Subaru, we work directly with dealerships under a different type of agreement, but we have those products available to deliver to our customers. How does the IAS model differ from others? Was question number 26. Our model differs from others because our model is exclusive to the expat industry, and our model does work directly with the manufacturers and offers those programs directly from the manufacturer's leasing and subvented programs. So we're not working with a broker. We're not a broker in the sense that we actually handle the leasing and financing. We're not passing you off to a dealership. So in the sense that A broker is somebody who's going out there and locating the best deal for you and then handing you off to the dealership. We're actually handling the deal from you from the beginning to end. So when we work with your client, we're providing them the price quotes. We're actually offering them the car. We're actually handling the transaction for them, and we're responsible for the transaction, and we're responsible for the customer after delivery. In the sense of the other programs that is available to you, once they actually process the transaction, they collect their fee and they're out of the transaction. We are with the customer from the beginning until the end. And should anything ever go wrong, we are still with the customer after the process. So we're not a broker, we're actually a distributor. So it's a little bit different. 27, can custom cars with options be ordered? Yes, absolutely. You can specially order your car exactly as you like. You just have to give that a little bit more time. So we have over 500 cars in our own personal inventory at any time. So that's another difference. So if you're kind of going back how we're different from others, so we have our own inventory. So because we work directly with the manufacturers, we have 500 vehicles kind of sitting in inventory at any time in U.S. ports. For example, Volkswagen and Audi, we have vehicles sitting in their ports. We have vehicles in a Ford inventory, in the Ford plants, in the Chrysler plants. So we have those vehicles kind of waiting. Those vehicles can be available. We pull those vehicles and we have them shipped to the local location where a customer might be relocating to. Or if a customer wants to choose their exact color or their exact features or their exact options, it happens a lot with pickup trucks or sports cars, especially like if somebody wants a Ford Mustang or Chevrolet Camaro or those types of cars, they typically want what they want. So in that scenario, that vehicle usually takes about 2 or 3 months if they have to order exactly what they're looking for. Question number 28. Do you offer leases for other family members of the employees on assignment with them? Yes, absolutely. Those individuals can also lease or finance a vehicle. It typically goes in the employee's name, and then the spouse can drive the vehicle. If the spouse is working and obtaining a social security number, they can also lease or finance in their name. But typically, the employee would lease the vehicle under their name and under their employment. It would be the same as as any individual living in that country. For example, if I was the only one working in the U.S., I would lease or finance the vehicle, and then my spouse would drive the vehicle under my name. But if my spouse was working and they had employment, they could lease or finance the vehicle in their name because they need that employment. What is the most going into the next question, number 29? What car is the most popular with the IAS staff, and what make would you recommend? This gets a little bit more specific down to what brand is the most popular. So Volkswagen has been the most popular because of the financing rates. But what car is the most popular from Volkswagen? I would say the Volkswagen Tiguan. Everybody's very, very excited about a compact SUV. Nobody really wants to go up to the large SUV in that sense. I would say it's the Volkswagen Tiguan versus the Toyota RAV4. They seem to be the most competitive models against each other. If you went up into the larger SUV, the Ford Explorer does pretty well, but the Volkswagen Atlas is also. And I'm not being, I personally drive a Volkswagen Atlas, so I'm not being, I'm not playing favoritism there. But yeah, the Volkswagen Atlas does okay, and the Jeep Grand Cherokee that does okay. That's pretty well. But the number one car, the one that I see come across my desk the most, is probably the Volkswagen Tiguan. But again, it could be jaded because of the financing. 0.9% is a very hard interest rate to beat, and it's a very popular choice. Number 30, in absence of U.S. credit history, is it easy to get car loans? As I was mentioning, this is something that kind of fluctuates, and credit opens up. And I'm sure it's something that happens even in your home countries and everything that somebody is also very familiar with. Credit becomes easier, and then it becomes harder. Right now is one of those times where it's becoming a little bit harder. Inflation is up. Interest rates are up. Interest rates are high in the U.S., higher than what they were. But what I can tell you is that with our program, we are getting our clients approved and for financing and leasing at the same interest rates that average Americans are paying with an established U.S. credit history. So the same rates that I have as an established American here in the States are the same rates that I'm presenting, or my product specialists are presenting to an expat without a U.S. credit history. So that same 0.9% interest rate is the same rate that a foreign executive that's moving here to the U.S. is going to receive when they buy that Volkswagen Tiguan. If Audi is offering 4.9%, that's the same interest rate that an individual is going to receive when they're buying the car through us. So that's a very advantageous rate, especially when you don't have a credit history here in the States. Sure. Question number 31, when is renting recommended over leasing and what type of assignments? That's that's that 16-month kind of gap. That's where I would suggest most people look at. And again, that really just comes down to, I want to be able to choose my car and I want to be able to choose the color and the features. Pricing really kind of makes that turn right there as far as leasing, where it makes more sense to lease the car. Number 32, in the event of an early assignment conclusion, can the lease be terminated without a penalty? What happens is it depends on how many lease months are left. So if you're leasing the vehicle for 24 or 36 months, I'll say 24 for now. If you're leasing the vehicle for 24 months and your assignment ends at 18 months, if you turn the vehicle in at 18 months, the manufacturer takes the vehicle back and they sell the vehicle at auction. When you sign your lease contract, there's something called a residual value. That residual value is determined at the time that you signed your lease 18 months prior. If the vehicle sells at auction for higher than the residual value, and you had those 6 payments left, whatever the vehicle sells for minus the residual value and minus those payments is what you would owe. But if it sells for more, you would actually get the excess. The individual receives the excess because you're considered the first buyer of the car. Or if let's just say in a perfect world, it's an exact match, then you owe nothing. If it only sells for the residual value, you would be responsible for those 6 lease payments because you're responsible to close the contract. So that would technically be your penalty. You're only responsible for the lease payments that are on the actual contract. You're not responsible for, there's no early termination penalty. The penalty is just your payments, unless the vehicle sells for more than the residual value, which would help offset those payments. Question number 33. For a program, we like flexibility. For our program, we like flexibility. What flexibility and support is offered for long-term assignments in the U.S. who may need to return the lease earlier? Okay. How is IAS month-to-month auto lease compares to regular rental car program? In the rental car program, in terms of ease, cost, flexibility, lease return, in the rental car program, you can return the car at any time you like. So if you're renting a car for 18 months, rental versus lease. So rental is just a car rental, and you can return the car anytime you want. There's no challenge there. And the car lease, if it's 2 or 3 years, it's kind of as I just mentioned. And when you return the lease, it's not IAS's lease. It's Volkswagen's lease. It's Audi's lease. It's Toyota's lease. It's the manufacturer's lease. It's their rules. It's the bank's rules. So when you turn in that lease at the end, a few months early, it's going to be whatever they sold the vehicle for at auction that you're going to be able to pay off that lease or avoid those penalties or those payments. In these last few years, the used car market has been so high that customers have been able to turn their vehicles in and avoid payments. But that can change at any time. So I don't want to say that's going to continue and then customers are going to, be in the windfall of not having to pay their lease payments. So I would say that, expect to have to pay some of those payments when a customer has to turn their lease in. But a rental car, if you rented a car for 12 months and after 6 months you have to go back home, there's no issue. You simply turn the car in. That's IAS's program, and that's IAS's, that's where we're in charge of and we can control. But that's not an issue, so don't be concerned about that. Question number 34. Just interested to hear about international employees able to secure loans and leases without having to pay an astronomical higher interest rate due to lack of credit. Absolutely, and I agree with that tenfold. Nobody is going to have to pay an astronomical higher interest rate due to a lack of credit with our program. Our program The center of our program is based on customers not having a credit history. That is the full focus of our program. That is what we built this program on, is helping individual expats without a credit history and making sure that they, receive the best possible leasing and finance programs, the same as what the average Americans are paying. In what countries does IAS have the ability to lease or help with the purchase of a vehicle? We have over 150 countries that we're able to help lease, rent, purchase of a vehicle. If you want to reach out to me, if there's specific countries for us to talk about or build a program around, I'd be happy to speak with you and directly about that program and offer you that program directly and kind of build the program for you. So I'd be happy to do that. I hope I answered that question directly. So that's all 35 questions. I'd be happy now to go through the chat and kind of see what kind of questions came up and answer those for you. U.S. looking to buy a car. Well, just so I can understand, Samira, so this is when anybody who's relocating to the United States, so anybody who moves here is not going to have any credit history when they move here. So everybody's going to run into this challenge. And anybody who's, as they were growing up, they kind of ran into the challenge. And the issue that they ran into is they usually had to find co-signers. Maybe their parents had to co-sign a loan or a lease for them, is their first time trying to build credit, so they had to have a much higher interest rate, or they had to put a substantial down payment. So anytime you're moving into that new location, it's kind of the first time you're starting out. In our scenario, or our program, we established this program to kind of assist this community specifically with car purchasing and financing and leasing with these car manufacturers. We built the program and their banks to help this individual community with the financing and leasing of a car. So it's a general rule for everybody, but we know we can help this individual community. So outside of it, if somebody's moving to the U.S. with a job and a specific visa type, which is kind of a wide range of visa types, and anybody even outside of that range, I'm always happy to really expand or approach the bank and try to help and try to find a way to finance or lease anybody. So I'm not shy to try to challenge the bank and try to find new opportunities. But a general rule, really anybody who's coming to the U.S., I'm happy to try to help them or try to find a way to help them. But yeah, right now, International Autosource is really, we built this for the expat, foreign executive, healthcare workers. We help students. We just started helping students. We help foreign diplomats. I'm open to helping anybody. So if there's an opportunity that you think might not have been covered, or that you're concerned is not covered, please feel free to send it out to me, and I'll see what I can do. I'll be happy to help. The early termination policy. So, and kind of going on the rental car, there is none. You just simply turn the car in at any time. It's not an issue. On the leasing side, you'll just turn the lease in. At the time that you turn your lease in, whatever the manufacturer sells the vehicle for, or the bank sells the vehicle for, the residual value, again, that's an upfront value. So that upfront value, there's no games that the bank can play on you. You know exactly what that car was worth at the time that you signed your lease, whatever, 2 years prior or 3 years prior, and whatever they sell it for beyond, and plus whatever the payments are, is what you would owe. That's the policy. That's the termination policy. Some DMVs will do a switch from an international. It depends on the state. Absolutely. Depends on the state. We are fully aware of that. And whatever individual, when you're sending over your assignees or your clients to us, we will guide them with that specific, down to the city, down to the county, exactly on what they're going to owe. We'll tell them, if they have to go for a road test, if they have to obtain their driver's license, we will help them specifically exactly what they have to do. This way we can help them pick up their vehicle. So yes, thank you for that help on that. And yes, we will be happy to help them with that. The termination policy, as I mentioned again, it's for the lease side. It's once you turn it in, whatever they sell the vehicle for, the residual value, if it's less than the residual value, you only owe your payments. You don't owe anything less than the residual value. The residual value is their responsibility. That was their guess of what they thought the car was going to be worth. That's their issue, not yours. By the way, I didn't cover that. Sorry. You mentioned a new arrival, you also need an SSN. Yes. So we have Ian's question. You mentioned that a new arrival in the US will need an SSN. Yes, we've run into this issue a few times that it can take a bit longer than the initial rental car is provided. Is there any flexibility? And do you have any suggestions? Yes, we've run into this issue. As I mentioned, Ian, I've been here for 24 years. I've seen the SSN go missing. I've seen the SSN let the spelling of the name go wrong. But again, just when I think I've seen everything, something new happens. Uh, so yes, we can also assist with the rental car. If the company is unable to provide any longer, International Autosource, because we have a rental car company ourselves with Ready Drive, we can also assist with a rental car until the customer is able to pick up their vehicle. We don't want the customer not to be mobile. We will ensure that the customer is mobile and able to get to work, and the spouse is mobile. So we would even assist with a rental vehicle in that interim to help with them until they obtain that Social Security number. The Social Security number is a requirement of the bank. There is sometimes a situation where we can at least get the application that shows that they've applied, and if they call and they get the number over the phone, that can sometimes help. But we will always do what's required to help them be mobile, and if it requires us to step up and help them with a rental car, we would be happy to. Are we able to assist with long-term parking sourcing? Yes, absolutely. We can assist with that if needed. Are we able to assist with long-term parking sourcing for the expats in city like New York, Chicago, etc.? Yes, absolutely. Unfortunately, sometimes that can be more expensive than the actual car payments. But yes, absolutely, we can help with that. Parking in the city, New York City is challenging. CH question. This was probably stated earlier, but to clarify, what countries besides the U.S. is IAS able to assist with car rentals and leasing? CH, we can assist in over 150 countries. One of the things I would always suggest is if you have a certain amount of countries or certain areas that you want me to work on, please just feel free to reach out to me directly, and I would be happy to put together a pricing sheet for you and a program sheet for you that you can always refer to and reach out to me, and we can set up for you, no problem at all. So this way we can just kind of narrow it down. 50 countries, so we'd be happy to just kind of narrow it down for you based on the countries that you need. Yeah, does anybody notice how red my cheeks are? Does anybody pick up on that? That's the Irish in me. I just want to thank everybody for taking the time really to join the session. I know everybody has lots of work to do, and everybody's been really busy, and it's the start of the year, and well, I mean, we're already into April. Amazing, right? But the first quarter's concluded, and now it's the busy time as we're getting ready for the summer. And, just keep in mind that a lot of times the employers aren't going to reach out to you until they know they have a problem. This is a situation where we have to kind of preempt it and have to let the customers know that the programs like ours exist. And whether they use our program or not, an educated customer is the best customer. If they can have the opportunity to know a program like ours exists, even walking into that dealership, knowing that they have some kind of education about credit and cars and programs, it gives them a little bit more confidence talking to those dealers, because those dealers can be vicious. And if there's an opportunity to know that they have somewhere to lean back in case those dealers do try to take advantage of them, there's somewhere else that they can go. Because if they're remember I mentioned earlier before I mentioned that it becomes number two buying a car when they arrive here. Imagine now when they're here, their spouse is frustrated because they can't go anywhere. They're going to make a bad decision because everything's rushed. And they're going to be told, listen, I know your interest rate's 18%, but you have to start somewhere. You have to do something. This is your first time buying a car in the States. You have to start somewhere. It's going to be very easy to make that decision when you've been getting yelled at because your spouse can't go buy milk. It's going to be very, very easy, and they're going to make a bad decision. And what I've learned in the global mobility and the relocation industry is when bad decisions are made, all of us are blamed. So what I would like to try to do is avoid that. If they have an opportunity to get a way out or at least be educated, we're here to help. We don't always have to sell a car, but we can help educate. And that's what we've been trying to do for the last 24. Well, I've been trying to do for the last 24 years. So we're here to help you. Anything you need, please reach out to me at any time. If I help you, I feel satisfied. So thank you again for this opportunity to speak to you guys today. I'm be happy to speak to you again anytime you need me. Just reach out to Andy or just reach out to me directly. Thank you again.